Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Explore and Engage with Anam. New York City is opening its 16th Humanitarian Relief Center as migrants keep arriving. Nearly 60,000 migrants are currently in the city's care, and around 19,000 migrant children are going to New York City schools this week. The 16th Humanitarian Relief Center is Austell Place in Long Island City, and reportedly this location will be able to serve 1,000 people. And so what will these migrants get at Austell Place, this new Humanitarian Relief Center? According to reports, they will find a place to sleep, they'll get food, medical care, and help from social service workers. New York City Mayor Eric Adams seems to be blaming Donald Trump and other Republicans who support Trump. Eric Adams is wrong. This migrant crisis, this border crisis, has been created by the Biden administration and the Biden Democrats, not Trump Republicans. It is because of the Biden administration's policies that we have this massive crisis at the southern border. It is because of the Biden administration's open border policy. It's because of that policy that we have this crisis. Mayor Eric Adams said that he does not see an ending to this problem, meaning that this influx of migrants in New York City, Mayor Eric Adams does not see an end to this problem. The question is, who created this problem? The problem was created collectively by the Biden administration and the liberal politicians who designated American cities as sanctuary cities. And I mentioned New York City. The liberals call it a sanctuary city. The city of Chicago, the liberals call it a sanctuary city. And so because of all these liberal politicians who want to create this sanctuary city policy, it's because of these liberals and the Biden administration, because of their actions, we have this crisis at the southern border, and because of the crisis at the southern border, we see crisis in cities like New York and Chicago, with so many migrants coming in looking for food, looking for shelter, looking for medical services. The open border policy of the Biden administration pretty much invited foreign nationals to cross the border and to enter the United States without documentation, without authorization. Because the Biden administration has not enforced our nation's immigration laws, because of that, because the administration has not enforced our nation's immigration laws, we have this massive crisis. And sanctuary city policies in places like Chicago and New York tell these migrants that free food, free shelter, and medical care are available for them. And the question is, who is going to pay for these services? The American taxpayers. If you have been following my podcast, you know my views on this issue. I have talked a lot about the border crisis and the migrant crisis that we see in Chicago, New York, California, and also other places. So what's happening right now is people keep crossing the border and they keep finding their way to places like New York and Chicago. And liberals like Mayor Eric Adams created this problem by encouraging people to seek sanctuary in New York City. And now the city cannot handle the magnitude of this problem. In Queens, in New York, there's a lot of tension. There's tension on Staten Island. New Yorkers, hardworking New Yorkers, law-abiding New Yorkers, New York taxpayers, they are now protesting. They are not ready for thousands and and tens of thousands of migrants to come and look for shelter, free food, free medical care in their city. New Yorkers are not ready for thousands and thousands of migrants to flood their neighborhoods. And I mentioned Chicago. In Chicago, Mayor Brandon Johnson is planning to house migrants in tent cities. Mayor Johnson is calling these base camps. But it's not like camping that people do for fun with their friends and family. These are going to be tent cities where undocumented foreign nationals will stay. That's the plan that Chicago politicians are coming up with. Tent cities. And it's pretty clear that government will be spending more and more taxpayer money for these tent cities. According to Mayor Johnson's office, these camps will provide food, cots for sleeping, and health services to migrants. Health services. So all these foreign nationals who are crossing the southern border, they are coming to the United States, and they are going to places like New York and Chicago, they are going to be receiving health services. Think about the American population. There are many Americans, hardworking Americans, who are facing various health challenges, and they are having difficulty accessing services. When we talk about healthcare, there are three things that we talk about: access, cost, and quality. Access to healthcare services and affordable healthcare services so that it's not too expensive. And we talk about quality healthcare services. Now, we do know in this economy that there are many Americans who cannot afford quality healthcare services because of high cost. And many hardworking Americans, after they go through a hospitalization, or if they need a surgery, or if they have some major health issue that requires medical attention and treatment, afterwards, many hardworking Americans get stuck with huge medical bills that they then struggle to pay. And a lot of people go bankrupt because of massive medical bills. And so Americans are struggling a lot when it comes to healthcare because they are having difficulty accessing care, they are having difficulty finding affordable care, and they are having difficulty finding affordable care of high quality affordable care. But what about the migrants? The government is taking money from American taxpayers. Government in places like New York and Chicago, in these sanctuary cities. Government is taking money from American taxpayers and providing healthcare services to migrants. Now, I want to know your thoughts on this. I want to hear your thoughts. Share with me your thoughts. Go to tasifanam.net, send me a message, connect with me on social media. Let me know what you think. My friends, I have talked about legal immigration before, and I'll talk about it again. There are many foreign nationals who follow America's immigration laws, the proper immigration process. They apply and they come to the United States as legal immigrants through the proper process. Those immigrants come to the United States. They are here to work hard, to contribute to the growth and success of our country. And America welcomes those legal immigrants. And I have mentioned this before, that every year, approximately 1 million people get their permanent residency to live and work in the United States. Hundreds of thousands every year become naturalized United States citizens. So the United States of America is a welcoming country. America welcomes immigrants as long as they follow the proper immigration process, as long as they enter the United States legally. What's happening at the southern border, that's an entirely different story. It's a crisis. It's a massive humanitarian crisis. And these migrants, because of Biden administration's open border policy, these migrants are coming into the United States. They're going to these sanctuary cities where the liberals have promised them free housing, free food, free medical care. And as more and more migrants come in, these liberal sanctuary cities are not able to find space to house these migrants, to house these foreign nationals. And we see that tension now. We see what's happening in New York, and I would recommend that you pay attention to the news, because New Yorkers are now saying that's enough, because they see, hardworking New Yorkers now see that their money is being taken away by government in the form of various taxes and fees, and the government is using public funds, American taxpayer dollars, to provide services to the migrants, to the foreign nationals who walked across the border to enter our country. And after coming here, many of these migrants are also suffering a great deal. I talked about it before. In New York City, if you look at some of the images that I saw, you'll see that many migrants who went to New York hoping for sanctuary, they're spending time on the sidewalk outside a building just because New York has run out of space to house these migrants. And so these migrants are also suffering. And so the conclusion is that it is because of the Biden administration's open border policy that American taxpayers are suffering, and these migrants who are coming here, many of them are suffering because they are spending time on the sidewalk. Now, these tent cities, this is something I will likely be talking about more in future episodes, but let's just briefly talk about these tent cities. Fall is coming, autumn. Winter will soon be here in a few months. These tent cities, how are people supposed to live in tent cities? First of all, who's going to pay for these tent cities? American taxpayers. Well, the taxpayers don't have any money to waste. There are enough needs in the United States. People need good health care. There are roads that need to be fixed. There are bridges that need to be fixed. There are many other needs in our country. There's a lot of homelessness. There are lots of homeless people who are suffering, and these are American citizens who are homeless and they are suffering. Our veterans need various services and care. There are many children living in poverty. There are many senior citizens who are struggling in their senior years, and they have many unmet needs. And so when we see all the struggles, all the challenges that American citizens are going through, seniors, people in the working age population, children, they need services. And so why is government taking all this money, all this taxpayer money, and spending the money on foreign nationals who crossed the border to enter our country? That's the question that people should be asking. Now, these tent cities, I was talking about tent cities, These tent cities, how are people supposed to live in these tent cities? How are people supposed to live in a tent when it's winter, when it's snowing outside, when it's negative temperature? Because we know that New York is running out of space to house these migrants. And in Chicago, Mayor Brandon Johnson wants to house people in tents. But as the colder months approach, how are people supposed to live in these tents? This cannot be a solution. Well, let me tell you what the solution is. Secure the border. Secure the border. Enforce our nation's immigration laws. Make sure that anyone who wants to come to the United States to live here, to work here, must do so legally. Do not allow foreign nationals to simply cross the border and enter the United States without any authorization, without any visa. There's a proper way to enter the United States, whether it's for tourism, whether it's to work here, whether it's for educational purposes. There is a legal system, and any foreign national who wants to come to the United States must do so legally. My friends, share with me your thoughts. There's so much to talk about. There's a lot to talk about, and I will be publishing more podcast episodes, sharing my commentary, sharing my thoughts about various issues that we see. And as you know, if you've been listening to my podcast, that I talk a lot about the issue of immigration, because every day there are new things happening. If you pay attention to what's going on in New York and Chicago and California, every day there's new information, and I want to make sure that I discuss those issues and share my thoughts with you. Now, whether you agree with me, disagree with me, please reach out to me. Go to tausifanam.net, send me a message, sign up for my e-newsletter, and find me on social media. You can connect with me there. And before I conclude this episode, I want to thank you all once again for continuing to listen to my podcast. I hope to be back again soon with a new episode of Explore and Engage with Anam.